You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live.
Hello, welcome back to the Claret and Blue podcast. My name is Dan Rowlands and I'm joined by Matt Kendrick. Matt, how are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, life's good other than the Villa.
I mean, they ruin everything, don't they? I think Ty Bracey tweeted games played 5, weekends ruined 3, weekdays ruined 1. So that's Wednesday's ruined now. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I said this on a podcast a couple of weeks ago and somebody said this is not a great start to a podcast to entice people in by saying I don't know what to say. But I've always got some kind of rough structure where I kind of want to take these. But as the time was ticking down then on that intro from 20 seconds to 10 to 5, I was just sat there thinking, I did a big sigh and I thought, I don't know how to start this. And the way I'm starting this is this waffle. And the longer we can go on without talking about Arsenal 2, Aston Villa 1, probably the better.
Yeah, just talking to you before we came on air about the poor lighting. And it's almost as if I fade away a little bit more with every defeat. So people who don't like me, another few weeks and I'll just disappear, I think.
Like Voldemort, shrinking away. You don't look very grey wherever that room is when you're right. You look more grey and grey as the weeks go by. But I think that's just what Aston Villa does.
In my face or my hair or
just the picture generally. It's very, very dark and grey.
Yeah, and they're making me feel pretty grey, to be honest. Dan.
I mean, we're laughing. It's not funny. And there were people saying that we don't care. We're not taking it seriously enough. But what can you say about it at this point? I suppose you could say losing to Arsenal is no shock. I think me and John did a little catch up this afternoon before we headed to the Emirates, and I think 90% of the comments were expecting a defeat tonight. Not that there's any solace to take in that we were expecting a defeat and we got it. And then it wasn't probably as bad as some people expected. I think I said 4-1 on my prediction. So I just thought, they could batter us in theory. And I will think the same again about Man City, who've won 6-0 tonight, and Haaland's got consecutive hat-tricks. So probably the first player ever in history to get 3 hat-tricks in a row, won't he, on Saturday? But we'll think about Saturday later.
I'll get 4 hat-tricks in a row by Saturday tea time or Saturday evening.
Yeah. But yeah, it's you probably look at that as 2-1 and think, that's all right. We would probably that goes down as not a bad result, and we'd probably all taken 2-1 before kick-off. Low defeat, keeping it, but it wasn't that kind of game. It was first half was poor again. I don't know how much analysis we've got to go into it really, apart from just saying it was rubbish, like we've seen all the way through the season so far. And then that kind of weak backbone, that weak mentality of scoring and instantly conceding is diabolical. That's the 3rd time this season now after Everton, which we could have quite easily thrown that game away and we'd be on 1 point for the season. Crystal Palace going ahead there early, and then that should be a good foundation to start the game. You score early against Palace, a good place to go and get ahead. And you throw that away, and then same today, you get back in it. And at 1-0, and we make the changes finally. Sorry, I'm waffling here. Well, I mean, those changes should have come earlier than they did. But you kind of think, but yeah, we're still in this at 1-0. Like, if from a performance perspective, we're not. But the scoreline says we're 1 goal away from getting something, and then we get it direct from a corner again, which we'll talk about in a sec. And we instantly throw it away. That's poor. There's no way to defend that. That's weak. That's yeah. I don't know.
Was there a question in there?
No. I don't know. Just take this wherever you like.
The result 2-1. We're clutching at straws now, but 2-1 is probably
good for goal difference.
Not quite the mauling that we thought we were going to get, although it probably was a mauling in everything except the scoreline. I invited a mini pile-on after 15 minutes by saying this is more like it in terms of tempo and spirit. And people were like, well, we're not really setting the tempo. We're just kind of chasing the tempo, which is a point. It just shows that our expectations have dipped in terms of what I settled for as progress for the first 15, 20 minutes of that game. And that was that the players looked like they were putting a shift in, looked like they cared, looked like they're putting the foot in, some tasty tackles going in. But I've been thinking about this,
That's the bare minimum, though.
Well, yeah, it is. That's the minimum requirement. If you can't do that, how are you playing professional football in the first place? But, and I don't want to dig out the captain because he can't be feeling great after another poor performance and after finally being, I know he was substituted last minute on Saturday, but being substituted for the last 20, 25, whatever it was today. But I think Villa are almost kind of epitomising a kind of out of form John McGinn at the moment, in that, yes, they'll chase. Well, today they were anyway. Yes, they will chase and they will put themselves about. But is there really any kind of plan there? Is there really any kind of calmness about what they're doing? Any kind of structure and any kind of pattern and any kind of real thought and intelligence about what they're doing? I think it sums up McGinn. I'm not just picking on him tonight, but I thought that was Aston Villa tonight. That they looked as if they couldn't be faulted for effort. I don't think. But over and above that, what were they trying to do again?
Yeah, I think it's generous when you say the first 15 minutes. I thought first 10, maybe first 5. I thought, like you said, getting in, trying to win some tackles, a few fouls in there, but at least you kind of maybe go there and disrupt the crowd a little bit and show that you're going to get in the Arsenal players' faces. And I was starting to think, I'm obviously thinking I've got to do the podcast tonight. I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is going to be slightly different today. Maybe we are going to try and be a bit more direct and a bit more aggressive. But that soon fizzled out to be, we were just chasing Arsenal. We were chasing their shadows. It was a bit like the year 7s against the year 11s at lunchtime, and the year 11s ping it around, and we're just chasing them and just trying to get whatever we can. And if that's an niggly foul or whatever, then you just kind of think, okay, well, we've broken up play and we go again. There's still no any semblance of a plan or an identity or system or whatever you want to call it. It's just very basic stuff that we can't get right. And like I said at the start, conceding straight after you score. Somebody in the comments there just said that's a concentration issue, but Premier League footballers, that's the 3rd time in 5 games that's happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just weren't good enough against them again, and it was like, yes, we can come bursting out the traps and snapping at the heels like some angry greyhounds if you want, but we were playing against kind of thoroughbred race horses, weren't we? Race horses, that's such a word.
There's 2 crap analogies we've had so far. Year 7s versus the 11s and greyhounds.
I mean, my passion's here, mate, but I've got no.
I've actually got a third that I've nicked from a Facebook comment I saw earlier. It was quite a long comment, but they described Villa's kind of the foundations of the side as a meringue, which I quite liked. That you can kind of flash it up with a bit of flashy fruit on the top or some nice double cream, but the basics and the foundations are crumbly as soon as you start to dive in, which I thought I like that.
Yeah, don't turn me to comfort eating, mate, at this time of night. trying to shed some weight. Yeah, I think it's bigger picture again, isn't it? We've got 5 games in. We're second from bottom now. We've got 3 points from 15, which even the most optimistic Villa fans would probably struggle to mount a case from that being any more than 3 points from 18 come Saturday evening.
Leicester have got a game in hand as well, by the way.
Say again.
20th. Leicester are 20th at the moment, play tomorrow night against Man United. So if they beat Man United, we'll be bottom come Saturday.
Yeah, and it's probably fair. Well, it is fair because that's
we're the worst side in the division. However you want to dress it up. I don't watch loads of football, and again, I'll get this thrown at me sometimes saying you're a sports journalist, so you're supposed to do a podcast. I watch Villa, but I'm not. If there's a game on, I'm not glued to it. There'll be people that watch every single minute of every single game that's shown on BT, Amazon, Sky Sports, whatever. I watch some games here and there. And every game I've seen so far that isn't Villa, I watched Leeds against Chelsea. I've seen a couple of Newcastle bits, and every time I watch somebody else that isn't Villa, I think, well, they're better than us. There's nobody that Forest against Spurs. I thought they were good, even though they've been battered tonight against Man City. But I watch everybody else and think, well, they're better than Villa. So you can get whatever stats you like. I'd say watching the team's performances, 5 games in, we're the worst side in the division.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we'll watch Villa with an ultra-critical eye anyway, won't we?
Yeah, but we're not rubbish.
even neutrals would know that's a team that's struggling for form, it's struggling for a plan, struggling for confidence, and it's another. I don't know. It sounds very dramatic and very bleak, but it's another challenge. It's another perhaps nail in Steven Gerrard's managerial coffin at Villa. I don't think unless we get. Has any manager ever been sacked on transfer deadline? Transfer deadline day before.
I don't know. Probably,
I can't see it happening. Definitely not this side of the weekend, anyway. But then
that to me that suggests that the board think we're going to get something against Man City. If you're going to sack him for poor form, if the reason why is we've not started the season well, is we're going to sack him, we'll lose against Man City. So why even wait till the weekend if that's what they want to do?
I don't know whether they want to buy themselves some thinking time or what. I don't know. Who knows? Only they know what's going on. But they can't have been impressed by what they're seeing. Like I said, I don't think them emerging from the Emirates today with 0 points would have come as a massive shock to anybody. But at times it was a little bit like probably the kind of fake encouragement that I took from the first 10 or 15 minutes would probably be the same if you're a conference team going to the Emirates in the third round in the FA Cup and you put a plucky first 15, 20 minutes and that was it, wasn't it? It was trying to kind of match them for intensity, but never looked like matching them for quality. And without kind of Douglas Luiz's party piece of just pinging the ball in straight from the corner quadrant, I don't think we looked like scoring, did we? Bailey had a little kind of raid second half.
Ramsey might as well have had his deck chair out.
Yeah.
I mean, that corner thing, it's a good little trick to have up your sleeve as a bonus. It should be that you can still create things and do well, but you think, oh, we've got a corner here. A corner is as good as a goal if you get set pieces, and it definitely is as good as goal if you can swing it straight in from the corner directly. But that should be a bonus to your armour already, not the only thing you rely on. It's a good thing to have. He's done it in training. He did it against Walsall. He did it in the league the other week. Was it the Cup? I can't remember. My mind's blown.
Yeah,
he's done it again tonight. Yeah. So it's good. It's good to have that. But if that's our only route to goal, we don't even get many corners. I think that corner was one of our first or second. The one that came before it that he took, I almost tweeted like loads of laughing emojis going, what a pathetic corner. And by the time I started to write it out, he scored the second one. So I thought, I'm glad I didn't tweet that. But if that's your only thing that you're going for, basically, again, it's just poor, isn't it? I don't know what else to say about it.
Finish it there.
Somebody said earlier you might as well have just replayed the Palace or Bournemouth podcast, and I almost thought if I'd have started a bit more time, I'd have got the clip from the Bournemouth episode and started with that and seen how many people noticed that it was an old episode, just so we could have a couple of minutes to ourselves. But we are just repeating ourselves, and I think I said a couple of weeks ago the podcast will be like this until there is a managerial change, if there is one. Either Gerrard gets sacked or he suddenly turns it around like that and we start playing well. And like we said last episode, there's nothing that gives me any optimism that it will just click like that and we'll start playing well. If we beat Man City somehow, and then you get something against Leicester and maybe Southampton, and you've got an international break to regroup, we will look at it and go, okay, there's something there. We finally click. We finally look like we know what we're going to do.
My annoying son's trying. What do you want? You want a what? Well, I am.
Get him in. Let's have another opinion.
Not better than to kind of upset me.
But the point is, there's nothing that suggests that will just suddenly start clicking. So the only alternative is that he'll get sacked at some point. And the podcast will be this cycle of where do we go from here? Oh, I don't really know what to say. Round and round we go. Yeah,
it's Groundhog Day again, isn't it? And I felt some of the jitteriness, and it's an Arsenal look like they've really got their act together, don't they? They look like a really good team, and they look like they've got a bit of heart about them now. The fact that they conceded to us against the run of play, then went roaring down the other end and scored straight away. So it needs to be taken in the context of Arsenal look like, say, the real deal. I'm still not convinced they're going to mount a title challenge, but I think they've got a strong chance of nailing the top four finish this year.
Yeah.
But the jitteriness reminded me of some of the end times of Dean Smith. It might have been the Southampton, his actual last game, when I think scored, didn't they, after a minute, I think, Southampton, and then Villa looked really, really nervous and really panicky. And I think there were signs of that again, almost like this team just needs something. They need some leadership or some confidence or a plan that they can believe in. And they just look really ragged and really, really nervy and really panicky. And that doesn't bode well at all. It certainly doesn't bode well when you've got the kind of Erling Haaland who's absolutely licking his lips at the prospect of playing Villa on Saturday. God, what a cruel fixture list. I'm just saying that we could play somebody really terrible and still not go into the game with any expectation of getting a good, solid performance and a good result.
This is what we were saying. There was, losing against Arsenal's come as no surprise, and neither will the Man City game. There won't be anybody that's expecting to go and win there. Someone just laughed that I said that we'll beat Man City. I'm very clearly talking about a hypothetical scenario that's never going to happen. So Yeah, we just go round and round in circles. Apparently, Gerrard's been on to BT Sport just now, giving an interview saying that he was asked whether he was worried about his position, and he said, "Yes, of course, I'm worried." Is what somebody in the comments has said. I don't know whether that's an exact quote, but yeah, damn right, you should be worried because why would these ambitious owners who have spent millions of pounds trying to assemble a side over the last couple of years, even before Gerrard, with some of the players we've still got, why would they accept being 19th at this point when this was the season that we were supposed to push on and bridge the gap to at least the top half? We're now sat in 19th with Man City's come, and you look at Southampton, Leicester as easier games, and you could quite easily still get turned over in every single game we play because the system is not right, the personnel isn't right. I did start writing, because I've been working tonight, so I did start tapping up some notes on Slack. I don't know why. I put no backbone, so many gaps in midfield, full backs off of nothing, shambles, and then I stopped writing, so I thought, what was the point? Why am I even writing notes down?
Yeah,
that's where we're at.
Gerrard worried about his position. Should be worried about 11 more positions as well on his team because he just looks so dishevelled at the moment. And I think you're right. Why would owners tolerate a relegation battle when all the mood music has been that this is a Villa team that want to get those big European nights back? And they've not downplayed any of that with can't say they. I mean, you barely hear a word from the two owners. So I'm not saying they've been going around giving it the big one, but the sense that we get and the proclamations that come from the club suggest that Villa's ambition is to get back to the top table as quickly as possible, and almost that the project progress or project steady progress that was built in, getting in the Premier League, consolidating the Premier League. So getting in the Premier League, staying in the Premier League, consolidating the Premier League. Almost that skipped a couple of steps, and now it's kind of top 6, top 7, keep up with the ambitions of the manager. So judged against that, it's an epic fail. It really is an epic fail. 5 games in, and we've spoke about this several times. I've only been on a couple of podcasts so far this season for the home games, and then tonight. And I feel like I'm repeating myself already, but it's not just
me being on every single episode.
Well, yeah, but it's not just results. It's a sense of, when do we get a sense of purpose? When do we get an idea of what this team and what this manager and what his coaches are trying to achieve? He finally tonight made perhaps a couple of the changes that I say a couple of changes, probably a change that we'd craved in. Well, yeah, a couple, because he's put Bailey and Buendia in there when we've been clamouring for them because they've been the kind of the bright hopes and given signs of encouragement. But has he put them in there? I suppose it's typical fan this. He's always kind of demanded something and then been wise after the event. Has he put them in there in the wrong situation? Did that game need another midfielder in there? Did it need Luiz in there to bring some control? I don't know. I'm kind of I wouldn't say I'm at the depths of despair because we've been over this ground with Aston Villa several times before, but I am getting really, really frustrated that anytime we see what we think should be a glimmer of hope, it gets dashed. It gets extinguished as quick as it arrives, and it's exhausting, isn't it?
This is kind of the point I was trying to talk about a couple of weeks ago about feeling like disengaged with it all. That I kind of feel like if we sacked him tonight and they had a new manager in, whoever that was, there's part of me that would feel like, I feel like I even can't get that excited about it because I need to see some kind of proof of the pudding. That this
you absolutely would. If they won 2 games.
Yeah, of course I will. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that is football, isn't it? That's being a football fan. But how many false dawns do we have to go through before we kind of finally settle on something that's going to work? How many more managers do we have to go through or signings and think, right, this is the one, this is the time when things are going to change, only for it to never change and always be the same? Will the next man be the one to change it? Will we be here in another 12 months going, Graham Potter, Pochettino, whoever, they didn't work either?
I don't know. Are we kind of just destined to go on this kind of boom and bust kind of roller coaster of optimism, then disappointment all the time?
I mean, that is mid-table, but we should be better than that.
Yeah, mid-table is something to strive for at the moment. But
absolutely.
I just and we see teams, don't we, that have with less. smaller clubs, with respect, look at the Brighton example, because they seem to be kind of flavour of the month for obvious reasons at the moment. But will we ever have the laboratory conditions to build a Brighton? Because as soon as we look like we're capable of doing something, we all get super excited and we all think we can get it straight away. And then that increases the pressure. I'm not saying that this is the reason why Villa are struggling this season, because clearly that's on the manager, that's on the coaching staff, that's on the recruitment committee to do it. But I just think that it's such a nice idea that we can build this very steady kind of plan. We've heard talk before, haven't we, about, right, you don't sack the manager and just keep chopping and changing and flitting from one different kind of manager to another. You want to get a structure in place whereby you've got a director of football, and when you get rid of a manager for whatever reason, you can bring somebody else in of a similar, with a similar philosophy. I don't think Villa is ever the kind of club that would allow that to grow.
Well, we've seen that Dean Smith was supposed to be that, I guess, so somebody who'd be here for a couple of years, and then he has a poor end to the back end of his season. He starts his season poorly as well, and he's sacked, and rightly so at the time. I think everyone was calling for it, and then we look where we are now and think maybe not. But we took a departure from what we were doing under Dean Smith. You go for an inexperienced manager and you say, here's a load of money, and buy players who are ready to go now, and people like Dean and Coutinho, and that's not worked either. So it's not like we've replaced Dino with a similar mould and still kept the same kind of structure going. We've kind of gone, that didn't quite work, let's change it all, and that's also not worked. And now we're back at square one going, right, like you said on Sunday or Monday, about this continuous improvement thing. And we're not seeing that. So by their own words that the owners and Christian Perzo set themselves to Dean Smith last year, they surely have to follow suit and go, well, we have to sack Gerrard for exactly the same reasons.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. So like I said, we're going round and round in circles. I don't know what more to say. What do you want me to say?
No, it's right. It's right, and it comes to that stage now where I think I've never known it's hard to gauge, isn't it? Because we're still kind of taking the temperature a lot from what's happening on social media. I mean, the boos at Villa Park were a clear indication. Those boos weren't just for, I might have said this whenever the other day, but those boos weren't just for a kind of fairly tepid second half performance against West Ham. Those boos were in the context of the start of the season, in the context of the last 4 or 5 months of last season. Mm-hmm. But I think I've never known, after 5 games, almost the levels of frustration, annoyance, people saying we need a change so quickly. That's remarkable. And I don't
earlier
know.
Than that, there's people saying things like that after game 3.
I don't know how this manager comes back from that, because I don't think, with Dean Smith, there's always that kind of sentimental pull that people almost resisted kind of becoming Dino out because of who he was, because of what he'd done, because of the ambassador he was for our football club, because of the way he'd almost, I think I've said it before, he was the kind of the Graham Taylor, the Graham Taylor of this generation in terms of the way he got Aston Villa back on track and restored our pride and stuff like that. I'm just worried whether he's actually been followed by the Josie Fenglos of our generation, which is an absolute kind of, just an absolute nightmare. But there's nothing to convince me otherwise at the moment.
That's mismanagement at the highest level, isn't it? To appoint a manager who's clearly not ready. Yeah,
and this is, and again, I've said on I can't remember what day it was, Sunday. I said on Sunday after the West Ham game that I felt like a mug for being swept along by pre-season optimism based on very little. And I probably feel like a little bit of a mug at the moment, being swept along by early Steven Gerrard fever, when I thought, he came and said all the right things. His press conference, his unveiling press conference, I thought he was very, showed somebody who meant business, who was determined to get Villa on the right track. He was respectful to Liverpool, but he was even more respectful to Villa and the job in hand. And some of his early press conference, I thought, yeah, he's got some kind of spark and some kind of swagger, which, yes, I know Steven Gerrard from afar, given what we'd seen in his playing career. But I actually like the idea of him being the manager of my football club. You know, got off to a flyer, got half a dozen results that almost kind of put us safe within that first couple of months. And then we thought, show me more. And then sound like I'm singing a song from Greece then. and then we said, well, hang on, okay, this is still Dean Smith's squad. He hasn't had a pre-season, so we've got to accept it's going to be a little bit blow hot and cold. And then we signed 2 players, did we, within 48 hours or within a week of the season ending? That really cranked up the excitement level. We now sit here at 10 past 10 on August the 31st, which is, probably 25 hours before the transfer deadline. Now, what kind of recruitment would you need to really breathe some life into that squad in the next 25 hours? What kind of players are available at what price? And how much do you trust the manager to go out and get them and to bring them in when you're probably not really safe in the knowledge? You probably bring somebody in on a 4-month loan and probably think that he might have a longer shelf life than the manager at the moment.
Well, the quick answer to those questions is very expensive. You probably need 3 or 4 players in an ideal dream world scenario to really drastically improve the side. And I've got zero trust in Gerrard to make the right signings. But if we do go out and spend money tomorrow or get players in, you're at least thinking, well, the club have got the players. It's not Steven Gerrard. They'll still be here after he goes, if he goes, when he goes. And we can hopefully still build a decent side. And, you look at a lot of stuff about the Arsenal Arteta stuff, and even Gerrard mentioned it in a presser about a bad start and look at them now and all this kind of thing. But we're not the same. We're using that as a good kind of excuse to stick up for Gerrard a little bit at the start of the season, but we are not the same as Arsenal in any way, shape or form. The Newcastle one is slightly more of a comparison. They were winless for 12 games or something, and they changed the manager, and Eddie Howe got the best out of the players that were already there. They haven't spent silly money. They've spent a lot of money, of course, but not the money that everyone thought they would. Spending 200 million in January and all these predictions, they got the best out of what was already there.
Well,
and they went on to finish above Villa.
Yeah, Gerrard hasn't been able to get the best out of what's already here because there is still lots of talent in that squad. And I don't want to dig out little Phil Coutinho too much because I was drooling over him, wasn't I, after a couple of games last season? Almost kind of drawing little hearts on the back of my exercise book. Matt loves Phil and all this kind of stuff. So he doesn't suddenly become a terrible player. But if the Gerrard factor is what has attracted the likes of Coutinho and Luca Dean and players, and the other new players, Kamara to Aston Villa, Christ, if that's what Coutinho plays like for a manager who he really loves and really wants to be with, imagine what he'd be like with a manager he doesn't like. That's on Gerrard. That's on Gerrard to bring the best out of these players. Mate, it's so frustrating. This is
what John said it on one of the last podcasts. He was on about, you're so well and good spending 40 million on Colin Gallagher on deadline day because you're in a bit of a panic and feel like you need another body. And yes, that would improve the side. At the moment, I don't believe in any of the players, to be honest. Anyone we bring in should make an improvement. But you've still got to get the best out of what's already there. A good coach would get way more out of these players. A good coach wouldn't be 19th after 5 games. So there's part of the blame on Gerrard, part of the blame on the coaching staff, and there's part of the blame on the players as well for not being able to do it amongst themselves and be playing this basic system that doesn't even work. And we can't just create a bit of magic out of nowhere and fluke a goal or hold on to a point or something and really grind it out. We're just weak all across the board at every level. But we've got a flashy new North stand coming and a nice club shop to worry about, and a nice new third. Yeah, they're all well and good for the club going forward, but at this point, I want to win some football games.
Yeah, I don't think the two things are mutually exclusive. I don't think Villa can be blamed for wanting to kind of, give Villa Park a bit of a facelift and want to act like a big club. I think that the big thing for me is What's the
but
plan?
that stadium will be very difficult to build if we're relegated this season, is my point. And I don't think we will get relegated, but if nothing changes, we're on relegation form in terms of points per game over the course of a calendar year. So you've got these grand plans that you want to take Villa forward. So on the pitch has to be coherent with that. You have to succeed on the pitch to make the things off the pitch work financially. So they do go hand in hand. I'm not saying don't build the North Stand because Steven Gerrard isn't working out as manager. I don't mean that. But, it's a frustrating thing as a fan because, first of all, we go to the football to win football games and everything else follows off the back of that.
Yeah. We've seen some fairly impressive, interesting plans for the North Stand. Let's see some fairly impressive, interesting plans for the football team.
Exactly, yeah.
That's what's most in need of a kind of a facelift. And I think I said the other day, it's another of me forcing my analogies, but it's almost like Aston Villa want to be a Michelin-starred restaurant, and they're sourcing the ingredients, the finest ingredients from Harrods and whatever fine food merchants that they can. But the chef has got no idea what he wants to cook, let alone how he wants to cook it. You know what I mean? It's almost, yes, they want to act like a big club, but the big key thing to acting like a big club is having a competitive, winning football team. And we look a million miles away from that at the moment.
Do you think we are in a relegation battle?
Yeah, I think we are. Because you're probably looking, you're looking at 3 points from 18, and then the pressure cranks up even more. Remind me, is it Southampton and Leicester?
Mm-hmm.
After that, I don't think any of those are gimmies particularly. I know Leicester have started pretty sluggishly as well, but I don't think any of those games are gimmies. And then you get to having played 8 games international break, and we know that this is going to be another break fairly early in the season as well with the World Cup. And I just think you get stuck in a rut. We've seen it. It becomes suffocating because not only is the football plan and the philosophy and the way of winning games non-existent, hence the start to the season, but confidence, the mood of the fans, all those things become an issue, and that just swirls around and, like I said, makes the laboratory conditions even worse and even harder for a team to thrive. So yeah, we're absolutely in a relegation fight. I know it's only 5 games in. Let's hope the relegation fight only lasts for another 5 or 6 games, and we've got points on the board, and we can, there's a gap between us and the also-rans in the division. At the moment, there might be a gap between us and the also-rans in the division, but we might be very, very bottom. We've seen it, haven't we? We've seen it all too recently with the bleak 2015-16 season. So I don't think we are being massive doom mongers in that sense. We're speaking from bitter experience.
I would look at Villa and still go, they're too good to go down. Similar to people saying things like the same about Everton last year, and they just about survived and again look poor this season. But those kind of things don't last forever, do they? When you go, they're too good to go down, because again, Aston Villa have already done it once before. We were a lot poorer then. There is talent in this side. So currently, of course, we're in a relegation because we're 19th. We've got 3 points. So I think over the course of the season, we'll sack Gerrard, won't we, at some point if it doesn't get any better, and that should hopefully give us the boost we need to at least get to 40 points. That shouldn't be what this season was about. It shouldn't be about survival, but I think most people now will go, well, if we finish 14th on 43 points, we'd all go, yeah, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, I'm not sure kind of last day survival Sunday when we scraped to 39 points is quite the continuous improvement that Mr. Purslow had in mind. But like you said, looking at it right now, that seems, I wouldn't say it seems best case scenario, but it seems a better case scenario than what could possibly happen.
There's over 1,000 people watching, which is one of our most viewed episodes live. It's 10:15 on a Wednesday night. So thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, there's a lot of people, rightly so, very angry and very disappointed with what's happening. I want to ask a question to the comments though. Gerrard in or Gerrard out? It's one word. I just want to see what the majority is. I know what the majority is going to be, but I wonder what the rough kind of percentages. Is there anyone who is Gerrard in at this point? Or is it inevitable that a change has to be made at some point? asked you, Matt, on the last episode, do you have faith in Gerrard to be the one to turn it around at some point? Is there anything you've seen that makes you go, okay, there is something there? I assume there's nothing today the way you thought, yeah, there is that.
This is very much clutching at straws. And I don't want to get battered in the comments by saying people thinking I'm an apologist for Gerrard, because I'm certainly not. If you're asking me for a slight glimmer based on tonight, it was probably the fact that we didn't get absolutely thrashed out of sight, although I think we did.
Well, we should have been. Somebody said earlier about
the scoreline.
Yeah, we could have been 3-0 down at half time.
And the only other thing that I'd take as a slight glimmer, and this just shows how low my standards and expectations have fallen for Aston Villa. For an Aston Villa team, I tipped to finish 8th or 9th this season.
And
the only other thing is, having seen some of the pathetic running stats. It's like pathetic running stats. Christ, I'd love to get around a pitch like that. But in context of professional athletes, having seen some of the running stats and where Villa rank compared to some of their competitors, I haven't seen the stats for tonight, but I've actually seen a team that was prepared to run and chase, albeit chasing shadows of players and a team that was much better than them. Those would be the absolute glimmers. But again, we've said this before, Dan, that's a bare minimum. You know, that's
I'm not sitting here at this point and praising footballers for running around. It's a job. Do you know what I mean? What is there to praise about that? 11 men run around after the ball.
Yeah, listen.
Like I said earlier, chasing shadows. It's all kind of irrelevant anyway. What are they supposed to do? Stand around? I can't praise footballers for putting minimum bare minimum effort. Sorry. That's the minimum requirement. I can't praise that.
I'm clutching, mate. I'm clutching.
Yeah, I know. You're trying to give me a bit of balance. I understand that. My feed here shows about 15 comments in a block, and it absolutely flew through just then when I said about in or out. There must have been 200 or 300 comments come through, and I was scanning them briefly, and I maybe saw 5 in out of that. And obviously, like I said, there's 1,000 people watching. They're not going to be 1,000 Villa fans, so those ins could be Blues fans or whatever. So the overwhelming majority, probably 98%, is Gerrard out, and I don't see any other solution, to be honest. Like I said, if you beat Man City, I change my tune. You get something out of Southampton or Leicester, and we look like we're going to, suddenly, I don't even believe what I'm saying. We won't, will we? I'm not even going to make an excuse that we say we might go and pick something up in the next 3 games, because there's obviously nothing in the first 5 to suggest we do. So we'll lose Man City, and then if he's still here, there's every chance we lose the next one. And if he's still here, there's every chance we lose the next one, and then we go on till he's eventually sacked. So you might as well sack him tonight, for me.
I'm just looking. I've made a mistake of clicking on the button that said the tab that says comments, and it's predictably bleak, isn't it? And I don't blame absolutely anybody who's coming on there and saying they're done with it, to be honest. I blame Dirty Pixels for saying get Brucey back, but I think there's probably a little bit of irony or sarcasm there. We've spoken before, haven't we? Not really wanting to debate somebody's successor too much while they're currently in situ in their job. I mean, again, throw this open to the comments, and we've seen some of it anyway, some of the suggestions. But if you had a choice, if you had to put 2 managers down in terms of the optimum one, and I don't mean optimum in terms of Klopp or Guardiola or whatever, but I mean kind of a good quality standard one, and below that a realistic one, what would people's two names be? Because obviously we hear Potter and Pochettino as the ones who are probably kind of in the optimum pot. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like I said, I don't want to kind of sign Gerrard's death warrant before it's.
I'm not going to kill him. Steady on.
No.
It's P45. You could have
managerially speaking. But I don't know what do people think about Rodgers?
Exactly. When you just said the 2, I thought you were going to say that Poch is the elite and Pochettino is the achievable one, or vice versa. And I was thinking Rodgers is probably the achievable, and I still think Rodgers will be a good shout as well.
About Rodgers, and whether it's because Rodgers is fresh in my mind today, because I've been tweeting about the 10th anniversary of us signing Christian Benteke, and it always reminds me of when Ty Bracey did a really dodgy impression of Brendan Rodgers to convince Benteke's agent he was him. But I don't know. I wanted Rodgers when, Christ, when would it have been? Might have been when we got Dino, actually. I don't know. I think Rodgers...
Somebody said in the comments here that Rodgers does well for 2 or 3 years and then implodes. I'll take 2 or 3 good years at the moment, to be honest, because we can't even get to...
Take 2 or 3 good months.
We can't get to 9 or 10 months before imploding at this point. So
yeah, I'm just talking... Listen, he wouldn't be my first choice, but I'm just talking about potentially gettable. I think he would be. I think he would be potentially gettable. I think he would have enough about him, enough gravitas to try and get a tune out of that squad. No denying the fact that the fella loves himself. You know, if he was chocolate, he'd eat himself. But I don't know. I don't know what kind of feedback have we had in the comments.
Pochettino, Potter. That's what he said. Dean Smith. There's a few shouts for Sean Dyche, which when I first heard the name, I was like, oh no, that's Sam Allardyce, that kind of mould. But there is a part of me that goes, oh, what would Sean Dyche do with a good squad and some money? Because he's done well with Burnley on the bare bones and survived in the league where they absolutely shouldn't for a couple of seasons. But at least he get the basics right. And I don't know whether that's just where my standards have fallen to at this point, that if he makes us defensively sound and we win a few games here and there and finish mid-table, would I take that? Probably, yeah. But long-term, is Dyche the answer? Probably not. But again, achievable, he's out of the job. Although I did hear someone say that he's quite enjoying not being a manager at the moment and going to the pub with his mates and being a normal bloke and stuff like that. So I don't know if he'd even come out of, not retirement, but out of come out of being out of work. I
think he'll probably be Bournemouth manager, won't he? Before,
yeah, Everton again. I think a good fit of Everton for Dyche probably.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's like you said before, there's no point speculating about the next manager when Steven Gerrard is still here, and there is still that part of me that is a fan of the club, and if he does turn it around, I would support him. But I can't even see him turning it around. So while he's still here and he still wears the claret and blue tie, he's part of Aston Villa, so we don't have a choice. So it's not up to you and me. It's not up to any of us watching. But I don't think anyone believes he'll turn it around. So it's just we're waiting for the inevitable, aren't we? Really. And at some point, you'd imagine we'll be doing a podcast that says Steven Gerrard sacked in the title because it feels inevitable. I just don't know when that will be. Is it going to be tomorrow? Will it be 3 weeks? Is it 2 months? I can feel it will happen at some point.
I'd have thought so. I mean, far away from me to change this podcast back to talking about the Arsenal game. But just briefly, what did you think about the goals conceded and the goals scored? Because I know that Chris Sutton on the commentary was digging out Martinez a little bit for the way he kind of parried the ball to Jesus. I thought Martinez also pulled off a couple of cracking saves as well, as part of a kind of, backs to the wall performance from the defence at times. But I don't know. What did you think? I mean, the goals were going to come, weren't they, in one shape or another? Yeah,
like we said at the start, it was inevitable that we'd end up losing tonight, and it could have been one of those games that was a 4 or 5-0 quite easily, and it probably should have been 2 or 3 at half time. He's made a couple of good saves. I think one of the saves that was decent was probably going wide anyway, but it's still a good save. But then it's almost not really worth anything if you parry it out to Jesus and it's game over at 1-0, isn't it? So it's, I don't know. Is it even worth talking about it? Is it worth analysing Emi Martinez's role in all this? It just feels futile, doesn't it? 43 minutes into this conversation.
I just wanted to change the subject away from talking about...
change the subject about football entirely. Let's just talk about anything else. I don't want to go back to the Arsenal game. If you don't want to talk about Gerrard anymore, just give me anything else. What's your favourite crisps or something?
I want to get finished soon because I want to watch the new episode of Better Call Saul. But I don't want any spoilers. Have you watched them all?
I finished it yesterday. It was my day off yesterday, so I finished it. I had about 2 or 3 episodes. I finished it. It's very good.
Is it worth me? I'm only going to... I've watched the first one of the latest batch last night. I'm going to watch the second one tonight.
Was that from the mid-season break, or you mean the first of the new series?
The first of... Is people still with us? Was there some released in the last couple of weeks?
There was like 7, and then they had a break, and then there was like another 6 or whatever.
5 or something. I've watched the first of those most recent 5.
Right, yeah.
People don't need to know this.
No, like I just said, I'd rather talk about this than the football. Yeah, I mean, just let's call it. What's the point?
Point? I'm done.
It is transfer deadline today. I'll ask you that quickly just to talk again back to football because there's still 1,000 people watching, so I do feel like I need to go back to something that at least makes sense to the Claret and Blue podcast. Signings tomorrow. How many do we need? How many do you think will happen? Any names that you'd like to see? Do you care?
It's really awkward, isn't it? It's really, really awkward because you just think you put the best players out there into a system that is no system, and they could soon become headless chickens. So I don't know. I really don't know. Like I said, I got a bit dewy-eyed thinking about the 10th year anniversary of Benteke, and what a kind of, without sounding like Bonnie Tyler, we're kind of holding out for a hero, aren't we? Again, and I don't see it from. It sounds really silly because we're 5 games in, but I don't see it. I don't see that kind of spark of inspiration from within what we've got. So we probably do need to reach out and get something fresh in. But it's not a very Villa thing to do, is it? To do the panicked kind of deadline day signings now, really.
Well, it was supposed to be all, get your signings done early and get them in for pre-season. We don't want to be faffing around on deadline day. We want to be ready by then. We want to be on 9 points from the first few games. And now here we are going, Conor Gallagher, 50 million. Yeah, go on then.
Yeah.
It's desperate.
Well, there's clearly some money available to spend. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been close to getting Sarr, would they? A couple of weeks ago. So there's clearly something there. I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of moving deck chairs around on the Titanic at the moment. I'd like us to do something because it just shows that we're doing something, that we're being active, and that we want to change this. But whether you trust a new signing to go into that squad and make a difference, I'm very, very cynical, as you can tell.
Yeah, I'm done. We'll be working tomorrow anyway, talking about whatever happens. So if we do sign any players, we'll be doing Facebook Lives and podcasts about them anyway. So let's just talk about it when it happens. It's 10:30 on a Wednesday night. Villa just lost. I've kind of lost the will to live as well, to be honest. Still over 1,000 people watching, which is brilliant. So everyone, thank you very much for tuning in. Loads and loads of comments as well, which I do appreciate. I've tried to not flash as many up as I can, but they're coming in so quickly. But we have had an eye on them. Matt, I would avoid you looking at them because there might be some Better Call Saul spoilers and people who are naughty. But
no, it's fine. I've just seen one thing in there, just quickly, just saying somebody asking to salute El Ghazi.
Yeah, well, me and John talked about it on Facebook earlier, a little ode to El Ghazi, but I'll give you the floor and you can talk about him.
Yeah, I put a message on social media earlier that, hold my hands up, and it's to my shame that when El Ghazi signed on loan in the August 2018, I think it was, I was more excited about the winger who signed on loan a couple of days earlier, Yannick Bolasie.
God.
Yeah, I did also go on and tweet that at least Yannick Bolasie gave us the famous line, Yannick on the streets of Birmingham, which is a famous kind of, a little bit of a variation on a Smith's lyric. But yeah, El Ghazi, he's I don't know, he's the kind of fella you'd take home to meet your mum. It just seems like such a I don't know. He seemed to be low maintenance, reliable, capable of some big moments. He's obviously kind of inked his name indelibly into Aston Villa folklore by scoring the goal or one of the goals that's got us back into the Premier League, albeit for a couple of seasons anyway. We'll come back to that. But yeah, just I always joked on about the Panenka and giving it loads to the goalie at Barrow as another special moment. But I've never known a kind of penalty taker as reliable and as deadly as him. I don't think he was good enough for where we thought we were going to be this season. He probably is, ironically, he's probably good enough to be where we are. And a few places higher, especially with a team that's, I think, again, I joke that must train on a narrow boat because we've got no width at the moment. I think El Ghazi probably could, for where we are, probably could have stayed along and played a part as a squad player, but I think he probably feels that his time has been and gone. But yeah, just wish him all the best because I think he's been a great servant for us during the 4 years that he's been with us, and it's been quite an epic 4 years for one reason or another. and I hope he goes and tears it up in Holland.
Yeah, nicely said. I'm going to end it with a comment from a guy called Liam who said, Matt, you should sack this guy. He's too negative and shallow-minded. He lets you down. So what we'll end this podcast with is by saying, well, let's go and beat Man City then. Let's be positive and optimistic for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
Well, can we just have a show of hands in the comments? Rollington in or Rollington out?
Oh, let's not do that. That's great for my mental well-being, isn't it? Rollington out in all the comments. Yeah, I mean, if you've got to be overly positive over Aston Villa being 19th in the Premier League after 5 games, then I don't know, maybe football isn't for me after all. Matt, thank you very much for calling as you see it on tonight's podcast. Appreciated, and thanks to all the comments as well. Loads of ins and outs already. Oh God, there's some outs. Bloody hell. Yeah, I mean, if I was out, there'd be no podcast. So yeah, stick that up here. Thank you very much for watching the Claret and Blue podcast. I've lost my head. It's time to go. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at some point tomorrow on Deadline Day if Villa happen to sign a player or not, whoever that may be. So yeah, keep an eye on all our social channels for that. And it's the build up to Man City where we're obviously going to win 10-0, aren't we? Because let's be positive. So
Dan,
cheers for watching.
Could you just work on a kind of corner flag graphic with Claret and Blue statement? You don't need to worry about it. You can just get that prepared for me. Is that all right?
Yeah, cool. All right, I'll sell that straight away now because I'm such a hard worker. I'll do it right now. Yeah, cheers everyone for watching. We'll catch up again tomorrow. Up the Villa as always. Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, up the Villa.